In today's video, we unbox a massive haul of Monster Fight Club tabletop wargaming terrain, designed to create colorful, interconnected battlefields perfect for 28mm miniature wargames or your favorite RPGs. Well, hi folks, welcome to the channel. This is Lee from skirmishwargames.com, and today, Lynn and I are going to open up a great big box of monster terrain from a company called Monster Fight Club. This is a relatively new company, but it involves a guy named John Kowaleski, who was the founder and former CEO of Gale Force 9. And we have quite a bit of Gale Force 9 scenery, a lot of their resin stuff, and dollar for dollar, I think it's some of the best tabletop terrain you can get. So with that pedigree in mind, when we saw last year that Monster Fight Club was having a Kickstarter for some new terrain sets, we thought that was a pretty safe bet. So what intrigued me about the monster scenery is that it's really versatile and you can combine different pieces in multiple ways to create a lot of different battlefields. So that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to unbox this. I'm going to show you the individual pieces and then some of the various ways that they go together. So we're going to start by pulling everything out quickly, throwing it on the table, and then we'll look at each individual set. There's like 8 different sets in here, plus some add-ons and I think some Kickstarter bonuses that we got when they hit the stretch goals. And we'll show you all of that. And a lot of this is available on the Monster Fight Club website. And I think rumor has it that they might be doing some future Kickstarters if what I read online is true, maybe with some different terrain. So who knows, maybe we'll see some post-apocalyptic or sci-fi terrain to go along with this fantasy and historical stuff. Lynn, are you ready to unpack some terrain?
Yes, let's find out what's in the box.
Okay, we're going to unpack all this stuff, throw it on the table, and you can see what we're talking about. Okay, as you can see, we got quite a bit of stuff here, so we're going to get to unwrapping everything and putting it on the table, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what I ordered, and then we'll look at the individual pieces from there. So as I mentioned earlier, this monster scenery was part of a Kickstarter campaign that Monster Fight Club ran about a year ago, and I think they ended up raising more than $200,000 in funding, which is pretty darn good. And so me and about 1,100 other people, maybe a little more, jumped on the bandwagon, and then after I made my pledge, I sort of pushed it out of my mind intentionally because I knew it wasn't going to arrive until about a year down the line. So yeah, since we have the completed terrain right here, I'm assuming that manufacturing was more or less completed before the pandemic exploded. But even so, the Kickstarter updates told us that shipping was going to be a little bit delayed out of the fulfillment center in Florida because they were working at reduced capacity, which is entirely understandable. And the Monster Fight Club team was really good about keeping all the backers in the loop on that. So as with a lot of different Kickstarter campaigns, the Monster Scenery Kickstarter had several different pledge levels. Now with each of those levels, I got to choose several options. So I believe I chose the campaign level pledge, which allowed me to pick 8 terrain sets of my choice. And presumably that was going to provide enough terrain to cover a standard 4x6 battle table. So some of the options people got to choose from were things like trees in various colors, barren hills, barren ground, bridges and barricades. There was a number of add-on items and a number of sort of Kickstarter bonuses for hitting the stretch goals. So we're going to look at all of that stuff. But what's interesting is that the trees, you can swap out the foliage. The mats, little tree mats, are reversible, so you can flip them upside down and have a pond. The hills can be connected with bridges and barricades. So by using all of this kind of complementary stuff, you can create a lot of different variations in your battlefield. So looks like Lynn is getting pretty close to having this stuff unpacked, and once she's done, we'll look at the individual pieces and show you how they all fit together. So one thing I noticed off the bat is a lot of the Gale Force 9 resin pieces were solid, and these are hollow. So this doesn't feel like resin. I wouldn't know exactly what that is. It's sort of maybe a brittle plastic. I don't really know for sure, but lighter than you would expect. But when I looked at the Kickstarter promotional video, they said they paid a lot of attention to making flat spaces so you can stand your minis on these. So you can see they're kind of designed with RPGs and wargaming in mind. We're talking today about Land of the Lost, if any of you go back that far. And here's some crystal nodes. Maybe that'll help them find their way back home. Do you remember Land of the Lost?
Yes, I do.
And the Slee Stack?
I used to watch that religiously.
Religiously? Yes. We always used to think that the Slee Stack looked like they had Duncan Imperial yo-yos for eyes. All right. Getting close to the bottom here, finally. Okay, well, here we go. So obviously this is a lot of stuff, and there's even some things off to the side you can't see quite yet, but we'll put those on the table here in due time. But we're going to see things like trees with various foliage, hills. There's going to be add-ons like bushes, crystal nodes, a village well, and then a bunch of freebies. Is there a frog in here somewhere?
I didn't see a frog.
Didn't see a frog. There's supposed to be a frog freebie. Maybe I didn't qualify for it, but a frog, a cairn, a skeleton, a chest, a tree stump, dirt pile, and something called special delivery, which is a lot of those chests and barrels and things like that. So let's, I guess, let's start with some trees, huh? So it looks like we got 7 of these various mats, and they're designed to be reversible. So one side could be for hills, one side could be for your trees. This one here, again, that's like autumn trees, and then there is a pond. So depending on what you need, you can just flip that out and use that as a base for your trees, or base for your hill, or a pond for your frog. We did find the frog, so there's the frog. So some of your options when you're picking trees. So a set of trees was basically one terrain set. You could go with Forsaken Forest, which is the leafless tree. You could choose trees that were verdant green. These are bushes, I think.
Yes, those are bushes.
Let's go over there. Choose trees that are verdant green, so they just pop on like that. Or Blossom Pink, which I didn't get. Autumn Orange, which I didn't get. But Twilight Blue I did get. So that's these. And you notice the canopies just go kind of right on there. And so you can swap out your trees as necessary to change the look of your forest. Obviously not exactly as stable as if it was just one piece, but pretty stable. And then green. There's your green tree. And here's a closer look at some of the stumps and things. I think these stumps were maybe stretch goal bonuses, so those might have come as freebies. This is a fallen down drunk tree, so you can kind of stand him up, but really he's meant to be laid down. And then here's a forsaken tree, but again, if you give him a canopy, then he's a twilight tree. So we have a total of 7 different mats, and I forget if there's trees for all these. I think it's normally 3 trees for a set. Anyway, we have plenty of trees and plenty of canopies, so. Okay, yeah, let's set the trees aside, and then we'll look at some miscellaneous stuff, just to kind of get it out of the way before we move on to the hills and things. Bushes, hedges, I guess. I think I remember, maybe they mentioned it on the Kickstarter video, or I read it somewhere, but they said, oh yeah, you could hide objectives under these. So, yeah. So you don't know if you're going to find a golden treasure or some kind of a rabid badger underneath the hedge. So here's some of the little extras that might have been like Kickstarter bonuses, I forget, but you have a signpost, a treasure pile. This might probably hang from a tree. A couple of skeletons, a dirt pile, and a couple of shovels. So, okay, there's a stump with a saw, a little cairn. So, scatter bits. Okay, we're going to look at the barren hills and the barren ground next. Now, there's 2 different colors of the barren hills and barren ground. There is the desert tan and the stone gray, and they're pretty much the same otherwise. So these are the hills, and as you can see, hollow, you know, some sort of solid plastic there, and designed to allow a figure to stand on top of the flat part, and also designed to connect with various bridges and barricades, which we'll show you here in a second.
What's on that one?
Oh,
It covers the cave.
There's a cave.
You can cover the cave.
So you have the moss-covered cave, and unless someone does a search roll, then they wouldn't know that there's a cave in there.
There could be treasure in there.
Could be
or a
treasure in
monster.
there, or a Medusa head to turn you to stone. So that's pretty slick. Okay, folks, I may have misled you a little bit earlier. I had to go back and refer to my paperwork and then look at the Kickstarter website one more time. But there's a couple of different hill terrain sets. So this is the Barren Hills terrain set. Comes with the large rock, the medium rock, 2 small rocks, a cairn, and a campfire. So that's the Barren Hills. Not to be confused with the Rock Hills terrain set, which is 1 large rock, 1 medium hill, a small rock, a cairn, and a signal fire. So that must be pretty much the same except for maybe these? I'm not entirely sure. We pulled them out of the bags and mixed them all up, but I think you get the gist of it. There's Rock Hills, and barren hills, and they're a little bit different. So the nodes fit into the angles on some of these pieces. They've engineered a little spot right in there for your crystal node. So they don't have to sit on the barren ground. They can be growing out of the living rock. And then there's also a broken ground set, which actually includes that fallen down tree we had earlier. So, well, that may not be exactly it, but roughly you get the idea. So the broken ground terrain set, you get a mat, you get 4 rocks of different sizes, you get the broken tree, which is that one there, and the fallen down tree right here. So we'd kind of assume those went with the tree sets, but they're part of the barren ground set. So that's some of the options you have. You can do barren ground, you can do barren hills, or you can do rocky hills. And the rocks themselves come in various colors. Well, 2 colors anyway. The gray and then the desert tan. So I did get, looks like a set or 2 of the desert tan rocks. So let's do a flat surface miniature stand-up test. So here is a large Reaper ogre that you painted up. And yeah, he fits pretty good on there. And here is a beast man. He fits pretty good on there. Here is this is the ogre's little brother. And he fits right about there. And here's your buddy Mongo. Remember Mongo?
Mongo.
So yeah, looks like they're pretty stable. And actually having a little texture on there sort of keeps things from moving around too much. So it's not very slidey.
Mongo gets around.
Yeah, he gets around. He might be moving to another dimension here pretty quickly. We're doing another test drive video here in the next couple of weeks, and he might be plucked out of the Warhammer universe and sent into another universe entirely. Okay, so what makes this interesting, not only do you have different rocks in different colors, but there's ways to connect them all together. So we're going to look at the bridges and barricades section here next. I'll move our guys out of the way for the moment. Okay, so here's the bridges and barricades set. There's also a ladders, crates, and barrels set. But because we're going to need a little bit of room, we'll look at that barrel set in a second. So these are designed to work a number of different ways. I think they connect the hills. Okay, in the Kickstarter video, they were doing all kinds of wild things with these bridges. They were making them into fences. You can add sections or not, depending on how dilapidated you want your bridge to be. I'll have to refer back to the Kickstarter video because they really had it worked out which slabs were level with each other and then created kind of an extensive section of walkways. So, but the idea is that you can use these for barricades, you can use them for freestanding platforms, you can use them to connect the various rock pieces together, and there's even little steps and things like that. You can use these risers here to kind of connect your sections, and then you can have gaps or not as you wish. And then steps. So if there was an alligator in the pond and you didn't want to have an encounter with it, you could make a pathway over that, but be careful because it's rickety and you might fall in. Okay, here's another trick I saw from the video. You put a riser there, a stair there, and a stair there, and suddenly you got steps all the way up. So yeah, pretty slick once you fiddle with it a little bit. So that is the bridges and walkways. Now let's take a look at our, what do we got there? Ladders and crates. I like the versatility of the system and how you can kind of rearrange the parts over and over again to make different battlefields. So ladders. Okay, ladders and crates and barrels. They didn't give any specific guidance on the ladders, but I assume we could figure it out here.
It looks like there's 3 different ladder sizes. And the crates are hollow, the barrels are not.
Okay, well that is our monster terrain set from Monster Fight Club, and I do like that the colors are kind of vibrant. A lot of times terrain can be real gray, but now we got some nice blue and green trees and some crystals, and I could have gone for autumn colors, but you stuck with the green and blue canopies, and then plenty of dead trees for our more chaos or undead oriented scenarios.
I like the broken tree, that's my favorite, but I do like the barrels too.
We have some other barrels, but you can never have enough barrels, so that's pretty handy. plus crates, and a lot of different sizes of rocks. So that gives you some options to mix things up a bit. Okay, folks, well, this was kind of fun. I hope you enjoyed this big unboxing of a monster scenery from Monster Fight Club. And as I may have mentioned earlier, I believe that a lot of this stuff is for sale. Maybe not all of it, but at least some of it is for sale on the Monster Fight Club website. Yeah, I'm really impressed with the whole set, actually, and obviously a lot of thought was put into this, and someone really took time to consider how the miniatures were going to react with the terrain, and how the terrain pieces were going to fit together, and how you can have a little splash of color in there amongst the gray and the tan and the wood colors. So, and frankly, I'm looking forward to seeing what Monster Fight Club comes up with here in the future, and maybe nudge nudge, they'll turn their talents to some post-apocalyptic or science fiction terrain.
That would be cool.
Which I'd be all over, so definitely. But until that time comes, as always, thank you very much for watching. If you like the things we do here, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please give this video a big thumbs up. And of course, please visit us online at our website, skirmishwargames.com.